Okay, thank you, Dustin. Greetings, everyone. This is the Washington State Building Code Council IBC Technical Advisory Group for June 13th, 2024. We'll see if we can establish quorum, please.
All right, let me get my participants list up. Well, it is a short list at the moment. So, all right. Chair primary Todd Byerthur.
Here.
Thank you. Chair alternate Roger Haringo.
I am here.
Thank you. For not seeing what I want to see. 1 second. For architects primary Joe Mile.
Here.
Thank you. For architects alternate Chef Fortaleza. I'm not seeing her in the attendees list. For building official primary, Tim Woodard.
Here.
Thank you. For alternate, Steve Belzak.
I'm here.
Thank you. For fire services representatives primary, Dan Young.
Present.
Thank you. For the alternate, Lance Dahl. Not seeing him in our attendees list. Cities and counties primary, Hoyt Jeter. Not seeing him in our attendees list. For the alternate, Sean Karlstrom. Also not in our attendees list. For general contractor developer, Bill Mybush.
Present.
For structural engineer primary, Joshua Mergens. Not seeing in the attendees list. For the alternate, Trent Tenney.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. For persons with disabilities or accessibility expert, Michael Shaw. I actually got an email from him that he won't be able to attend today. For building owner property manager, Brett Conway.
Present.
Thank you. For general public subject matter expert, Michael Barth is the primary. Not seeing in our attendees list. For the alternate, Leah Summer. Also not seeing in our attendees list. For state enforcement agency, Paul Clark.
Here.
Thank you. And for fire protection engineer, Andy Lianto.
Dustin, I just jumped on too. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries.
It was on another call and I just couldn't get off quick enough. So sorry about that.
So let me go back and mark Hoyt here. And there we go. So we got we have 10 folks here, or 10 seats represented here today. So we have a quorum. Just to touch base on if people have to leave and come back during the meeting, let us know when you're exiting the meeting. And if you're coming back, just when you get back in the room, please raise your hand so we can update the attendance list. If somebody dropped off, we have 3 extra slots here today. So we shouldn't be worrying about quorum with some folks who have some planned comings and goings on that.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. It doesn't, just as a side, we're still missing building products, supplier and manufacturer, correct? And affordable housing. We can talk about it later, but I think I found a willing and qualified applicant for that. So
we are completely vacant on affordable housing representative. Here, I'll share my screen so you can see the spreadsheet I'm working right now.
And I didn't mean to take us sideways. I just wanted to
it's all good.
Keep people thinking about it.
So let's see here. This is our attendance sheet. So we're missing the affordable housing representative. We are missing the manufacturer supplier, and then the specialty contractor.
Okay.
And then we have some other alternate vacancies as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, continuing with introductions, would anyone from the public like to be recognized, or did we miss anyone, alternates or other? Okay, hearing none. Agenda item 2 is review and approve the agenda. Can we hear a motion to approve, please?
Todd, actually, I think Leah Summer is on and may not have been in the
I think you're right.
I see her there.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, I am a few minutes late.
No
You're
problem.
welcome. We didn't mean to call you out. We just welcome you.
I make
Okay.
a motion to approve the minutes
Thank you, Hoyt.
Or the agenda.
or the agenda. I'm sorry.
Jenna.
Sorry about that.
Second it.
Okay, Hoyt and Andy, I think. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Agenda item 3 are to improve 2 sets of meeting minutes. If you can scroll up just a second there, Dustin.
I
Or
wanna-
Rosanna, thank you.
I want to touch base on these real quick. Last meeting, we did have a motion to approve the June 5th minutes. But talking with our admin staff, we don't think that they were available for anybody to digest at that part.
Okay.
So just to make sure we're covering the bases, we're gonna re-review them and take a motion on them appropriately today.
Sounds good. Can we hear a motion to, well, let's look at the other one first and we'll do them as together. This is June 5th. And June 6th, thank you.
Dustin, can you go back to the bottom of the June 5th meeting?
Yes.
Did it get, is item 6 doesn't look like the meeting,
Yeah, it does look like it was incomplete. I will make sure to update that.
okay. I noted the deadline, I think of the, when we're supposed to be done and that kind of stuff, but it's almost like the box needs to be expanded or something.
Probably it, but we'll get in there and check them out.
What is
Okay.
the deadline? I don't remember top of my head.
So at this meeting, the deadline was last Friday. Currently the deadline has shifted to be beyond the next council meeting. So the plan at this point is I'm proposing to the council to open up the proposal period at this council meeting for a period of 90 days. The intent for the 90-day proposal period instead of the 60-day minimum is to give the proposals an opportunity to come in while our reports are still being finished up. And the plan for the reports is to get them done in July, where we will call a special committee meeting and special council meeting, mainly just to address those topics. The due date, we don't have one set right now, so we're not planning on setting that those 2 meetings until we're knowing whether we're going to make the mark on these. And so once the reports are published, we're hoping that we're going to have another additional 60 days with the reports for proposals to come in, kind of in alignment with the minimum there. And so kind of my hope, just looking at a calendar on the topic, would be to have our the staff work on the final reports done by July 4th or 3rd or 5th. Be ready to meet for a tag meetings in the next week from the 8th through the 12th to review the final report, and then to have the committee meeting the next week on the 19th potentially. There's some scheduling conflicts there with folks in the committee membership, and then to have the special council meeting the week of the 22nd of July to get all that opened up. So it's all kind of tentative at this point, but the momentum we need to carry through is probably to get the IBC preliminary review of the chapters done by the end of this month, kind of at a maximum. If we could get them done by next week, it would be most ideal for what we're trying to do on the staff end for putting together the master report.
And I've got one more comment on schedule. Is I am also on the IFC tag, and we know of a list of 8 or 10 IFC items that need coordination between the IFC tag and the IBC tag. So I would also anticipate a meeting sometime after we get our work done, and maybe after we get the report, I'm not sure, but we'll have to have one combined meeting IBC, IFC tags to kind of go through those items. I think we've had a few on the IBC too, where we've said we should coordinate this with the IFC. So there's probably one meeting, a coordination meeting there between IBC and IFC.
And we're thinking maybe also with the IMC, if we've got any sections identified for that. And I'm kind of hoping to conduct those in that first 2 weeks of July timeframe, when hopefully we've got the bulk of the bulk of the master report ready for everybody to review before we meet and, discuss it.
Now, can I ask this is probably a stupid question, but when we get all the tag members together, right? So let's say we set up a meeting where we're reviewing the items together or whatever, like was just brought up. Can we do a combined tag meeting and then vote on approval or not approval? Or does it have to go to each individual tag group to do the vote?
I think that it's a little bit of we've done it before where we've combined tags in the meetings and they've taken votes on the changes within their own kind of purview of work. And so it would probably, like if we had a coordinated section, I think we'd be calling for votes from the IFC tag and then also the IBC tag and then coordinating both documents at the same time with that information.
Yeah, to me, that's what I was hoping, that we could get them wrapped up at that time, not having to come back again.
That is the intent.
Okay, bringing this back, good discussion, but bringing this back, could you hear a motion to approve these two meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Hoyt.
Second.
And thank you, Andy. Okay, any further discussion on these two? Go ahead. I thought I heard a comment. Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Item 4, and we can, by the way, we can come back to more discussion if we need to. We'll leave time at the end. Number 4, public comment on anything not on the agenda. Would anyone like to address the committee, the tag? I'm sorry. Okay. Hearing none. Flag me if I missed you. We'll move right into the work item here.
Okay, so I am not sharing my screen, so I'll update that first because I'm bad about jumping off and not showing you guys anything. All right, so first off, this is our current spreadsheet showing the body of work. I still have to get the preface chapter and chapter 4 wrangled for everybody. I did get some emails here just today on chapter 28. And then I think I'm still waiting on the other ones here at the bottom that are in orange. And I still need to get the preface for the IEBC as well. And I do believe I have the stuff for 13 and 16 from Hoyt. Hoyt, do you know if you've sent that to me?
I was actually, I apologize. The last few days, I had a dog that died that we've had for a long time that we had to put down.
Sorry.
So to be honest, I have not been, I don't know the answer to that right now, top of my head. So.
No worries. So what the plan is for today then is to go through as much as we can, and then maybe at the end of the meeting when we're talking about the strategy forward, we can, if we need to reassign some chapters or something like that, we can touch base on that as well. We were going to touch base. We left off on 16 as a preliminary review, we started reviewing it, but then Roger had to leave, and he's got some something he's got to run to here at some point. He'll be running out, so we're going to hit 16 when he gets back in the room. And so I would want us to jump off with chapter 1, and I have some stuff from Hoyt on that one, and I just got to get it popped open here real quick. And I think we talked a little bit about this last meeting. As far as chapter 1 in this section here, Hoyt, did I think there's more amendments in here than, or in our work, or I'm sorry, there's more existing amendments than I was showing on this report here. Is that something I need to go back and just double check before we get into it? We got, there's not too many, so we'll attempt it. Sorry. All right, 107. What the heck? My screen is it's hiding controls from me. There you go. Okay. So moving forward with the existing amendments review. Dang it, come on, you. I don't know why this is hiding all of my top bar stuff from me. Okay. I will try to get this off here a little bit. Sorry, guys.
It's nice to see someone else has, like I do. Sometimes I have so many windows open that all of a sudden I gotta start closing things out.
Yeah, I'm running 4 screens and a bunch of separate windows, and for whatever reason, my browser is not letting me minimize it or take it out of maximize mode. Okay. So I'll probably just have to work without the that stuff today. I was thinking here.
Sorry if I didn't submit it right to you. So
Oh, you're all right. With everybody doing it in there's the variations in everybody's product, and so we're putting that together and trying to work with it. It's not a huge it's not killing us or anything.
yeah, I was thinking you would copy all the stuff over to some file that have it all the same, and then we'd go through it. So
That was the intent originally, but we were running shy on time to get that all in there for everybody, and so we started just running with the reports that we get back. Okay, so I'm still not able to really control my browser window for whatever reason. And let me get open.
and you'll see some way over to the right, which you can't really see everything. Sometimes I just copied what was in the WAC just for my own information. So
Okay. So moving here. Really want to get my browser window off of this screen here. I'm gonna share a different screen.
and then what I did is I froze the cells so I could, I froze it so I could move it over. So I just had to, or you could hide those sheets, but you probably want to add some notes in those other cells.
Yeah. Okay. Should be seeing stuff like I normally display it to you guys. All right, so the first amendment here is in 107.2.
Yeah, and what I wrote is where I say keep, just keep what our state has. So
Gotcha. So the reason I brought it up is that I don't have 107.2 in this body of work here. I'm just gonna insert some lines. And you had some stuff out here to the right. So those are just comments as I understand them.
yeah, they're just comments of myself.
Okay.
But it's on the appendix. Some of those are on the appendices. So if you go to the WAC, you're looking at, you're not looking at the WAC, you're looking at the, significant changes from the code. So if you go over to the far right, that's the WAC stuff that's in there. So go over to the far right. That's the, yeah, that's just a lot of the WAC stuff, like adult family homes and all that stuff. That's all in the WAC. So that's why I said keep, because it was dealing with all those kind of things. So
Okay,
those are just notes. Those things over to the right were just kind of notes that I could look at.
okay. So,
That's why when I said keep, there it says keep our state amendment things in there.
gotcha. So as far, in chapter 1, did you identify, significant changes as well?
No, there's no significant changes in chapter 1. That's
Okay.
more of administration stuff. So
Yep. So, for the significant changes report for chapter
Probably the-
1,
probably the big one is we don't use the IPC. We use the Uniform Plumbing Code. I think I wrote that in there.
yeah.
So that's the one that we have to,
We just have
everything
to,
else-
but that's part of our normal amendment, correct?
yeah, we use the Uniform
Okay.
Plumbing Code. We don't use. So right, it says previous occupied 104.4.2, keep what our state has. So
Gotcha. So as far as 107.2, the amendment is, changes it from, through 107.2.8 to 107.2.9. Keep the existing amendment. Does anybody have any other comments on that particular section? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna move to 107.2.9. This is where 107.2 points to, and the reason why we need to,
okay, the reason I didn't say you need to have that one, because that's an ASCE 7 already. So ASCE 7, so they reference it already to, the building code already references that to the non-structural components. So it's already in 13.1.3. So I don't really understand, why that's in there.
So would it be your recommendation then to remove this because it is included in that?
The only thing that I didn't see that was in, yeah, it's all in the ASCE 7. The IB, this is what confused me on this one in the structural stuff. Maybe the other structural guy that's on here. I didn't understand when you already referenced in the standard the structural codes, but then you grab certain things out of the structural codes, out of ASCE 7, but you don't modify it, which threw me for a loop. So if you're going to modify it, it makes sense. But if you're not going to modify it, you should just be using ASCE 7, like it's already in the building code, because the 1.5 is already there in the ASCE 7. All that stuff in green that you have there, that's already in the code.
So does anybody else have any opinions on that one?
You're saying that 107.2.9 is included in ASCE 7.
That's correct. So if you open up, do you have ASCE 7? You can open
I
up in
didn't.
chapter 13.
I don't have it. I mean, I can get online, or
Oh, okay.
I can look at it. I don't have it right now, but
Okay. That's all in chapter 13. It says the ISA P shall be, importance factors shall be, that should be 1.5.
So I'm just going to throw out there, oftentimes other reasons why we cross-reference things is because there's not a direct link in the code. So I'm just throwing it out there because the IBC still does allow some prescriptive construction. Would this not basically help people dictate that for non-structural components, they still need to use what is already in ASCE 7? So maybe just having the extra cross-reference,
Then that's
somebody
fine.
felt was important. I don't know why, but
Yeah. So that's fine with me to keep it. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing that always throws me for a loop is when it's already in the code. Why do we have it in there? But that's fine. If that's a reason, and that's a very valid reason, then yeah, then just keep it.
Hoy, I might be finding that this is in the ASCE as well, but I just want to throw out there, and again, maybe I'm just wrong here, but it says this amendment seems to be referring to what we need to put on our construction documents, not just that the importance factor shall be 1.5 unless you otherwise prove it, like the ASCE. Or are you saying in the ASCE, which I'm trying to look now, but multitasking? Are you saying the ASCE says, hey, you need to document the components that have an IP of 1.5 on the construction documents?
Well, that's also in the chapter 16 of the IBC. You're supposed to have that on there too. It kind of says that kind of in the code.
Okay.
You're supposed to put the importance factor on there also. And I write that as comments for that. But the thing is that I think the reason why this was here, which I don't think it's a bad thing to take out. So if you want to keep it, is that I do find this gets missed all the time, and I have to write it. Because a lot of times they do some of the non-structural items, like stairs, for example. Here's an example. They do that as a deferred submittal. And then I get the calcs and I have to write a comment. You didn't use the ISP of 1.5. And that includes the connections too. So that, I mean, that's an example.
I get that, but isn't this saying that you will need to list out all components that have an IP of 1.5, not that you shall use an IP of 1.5?
Yeah, and that's already on the code in the code also.
In chapter 16 of the IBC?
Yeah, and in chapter
Okay.
1, you're supposed anything that's a deferred submittal is required to be listed on the drawings. So
And that makes sense. I'm drawing the distinction that that's not what this amendment's saying. It's not saying any deferred submittal shall be on there. They are saying specific items that should be on there if they're a deferred submittal. I didn't know if that's where the difference was, but I don't have too much skin in this. I mean, it's not hard for us to add a line of text on a drawing.
yeah, and the one thing is, if you keep it, it's fine. But the code already says that. So that's kind of where I was at a conundrum on that one. I was like, if you want to put it in, that's fine. But the argument is, why didn't you put other stuff that was already in the code in there? That's the devil's argument on there. But I'd like other people's opinions. I mean, I'm fine keeping it in. That's up to you. That's up. I mean, I guess that's up to the committee here. And I do see this missed all the time. So it is something I write a lot. So.
Well, this is Roger. I'm looking as well. My tendency is, if there is the potential that it got added because of the cross reference that was mentioned, I would lean towards leaving it. But at the same time, I tend to agree if it's listed someplace else. So I'm a little bit in the.
Like here's the other thing. Like, for example, life safety stuff for mechanical equipment. Okay, in a building, like for hospitals, there's certain mechanical for life safety that also has an if you go to ASE 13.1.3, there's other items that needs to be a 1.5 safety factor. Life safety, for example, fire spray, anything that has to do with life safety in buildings is supposed to be a 1.5. Stairways have the 1.5. That I'm just saying that it's not inclusive, but to me that's good because the reference has it inclusive. So I just want to be clear that it's a devil's advocate on that one. But keeping it's fine too, as long as people know you still have to do the other stuff too.
I wonder if some of the thought in this was just trying to close the loop on people trying to use seismic design category C to get out of some of this, because we have seismic design category C in the state. And
right. Well,
ACP allows 1.0 for let's see, that's architecture. I'm sorry, here we are. Mechanical and electrical components. So mechanical and electrical components can be an IP of 1.0 if it's positively attached to the structure in seismic design category C.
Right. No, so what happens is that was new in the code. Those 1.5s that was added in the last cycle, right?
The importance factor of 1.5?
The 1.5 for some of the ASCE 13. So if you go back a couple of ASCE 7s, if you go look at there's a bar by it, the 1.5 was something that was added at the ASC committee to make sure that factor was in there. The 1.5 was always been in there, but they actually did for the non-structural components, I think was added. If you go back and look at the older codes, there's a bar by
like ASC 710 didn't have an IP of 1.5.
I think was the one. It was one of those.
I'm looking at well, no, I'm looking at 22 right now, so I can't really say that.
No,
I just-
22 has it. 22 has it.
22 certainly has an IP of 1.5, but again, that's not what the amendment is saying. It's not delineating when you need an IP of 1.5. It's stating that you need a list on your drawings, specific items with an IP of 1.5. And I don't know if I'm seeing that in IBC, but I think maybe we're all in agreement that leaving it's not hurting too much, but I feel like maybe we should have some clarity on it. I mean, typically you're going to list your IP for everything you're using. I mean, when you list out your structural drawings, but I'm wondering if there's a gap in here where they talk about I having to be listed on the drawings, or IE rather, as opposed to IP.
It's IP. It's IP. Yeah. So
Well, I know it's IP here, but I'm saying in chapter 16 of the IBC, does it say IP or does it say IE? And that might be what they were driving at with this.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it lists IE. It does not say in the IBC in chapter 16 to list IP.
Oh, okay. So you could leave it in there.
Yeah, I think that's what they're getting at, but it's good discussion. Thank you, Hoyt.
Okay. Oh, wait. Wrong one. So moving to our next state amendment in chapter 1 is 108.1, where we add an exception. Be used indefinitely. As I was told when I first came into Washington and heard this exception, this is to allow state parks to use yurts.
Yeah, that's correct.
And the recommendation on this one is to keep the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It all came from yurts.
Okay.
Are you doing also like the adult family homes, substantial damage, all that kind of?
We're gonna get
Oh.
to that one in chapter 2 for the definitions. We're gonna stick to chapter 1 for just a moment.
Oh, okay.
And insert that there. And then for the significant changes, you said earlier that we don't have any in chapter 1. You've got some notes on stuff, but everything in here appears to be editorial.
Yeah, that's the way I looked at it.
Okay. So we're gonna do notes. Okay. So with that one, does anybody in the group want to go back and talk about any other sections of chapter 1? Because that covers our existing state amendments and the significant changes within chapter 1. And I'm not seeing any hands. So I guess we're in the position to entertain a motion on chapter 1 of the IBC.
I'll make a motion to move chapter 1 of the IBC to the master document. It's
It
Tim.
does. Thank you, Tim. We hear a second, please.
Second, this is Josh.
All right, thank you, Josh. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay,
Okay. So moving on into definitions. Let me close this out. One big thing that I'm not seeing in this one that was talked about at the IFC tag was the reorganization for the definition of occupancy classification. That definition has been pulled out of section 202, and there's a new section 203. At least in the IFC, I haven't gone through this definition here. Let's. What the heck?
Okay.
Brian was working on this one before we got in here. And okay, let me see here. There's
Is that the A2 one?
Yeah, we might be on there. I don't think I've ever looked. That's who we are. You were asking.
okay. Give me Am I wrong that maybe I'm just not as familiar with this one as I should be. Was there a definition like there is in the fire code in the 2021 IBC?
Or
So in the 2021 fire code, there's a definition for occupancy classification, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff underneath it that I'm pulling it up right now to show off. And they
that was in
wanted
the definition.
yeah, and so in the 2024 code, they've pulled the occupancy classification definition out of definitions in section 202, and they've placed it in a new section, section 203. So here we are. So let me change my share real quick. So this is the 2021 fire code here. So we have this definition of occupancy classification, and then it breaks it out like chapter 3 almost.
No, that's all in our where everything you're talking about is all in chapter 3. So the fire
Right.
code's totally different. Fire code does it totally different. Everything that you're showing there in the fire code is all in chapter 3. It's not in
Okay.
definitions. Yeah. So
Then that's
yeah,
my
so
bad. I'm thinking
that would
there's a-
all be in chapter 3. Definitions is when you're defining something that's not defined by a dictionary or something like that.
Right. So I just wanted to, so that you see here, there's a new section 203 in the definitions of the fire code. And so they're having to rework all the definitions in this section to include the existing amendments that they had in here.
Yeah,
And they just want to make sure we coordinate it. So we need to coordinate IFC section 203 with chapter 3 is what I'm hearing.
that's correct. That everything you're
Okay.
seeing there, like 203.1, right? That's actually 303, or I'm sorry, that's actually 302.1, just
Okay.
FYI. So that was all chapter 3 stuff. So
Well, then we will, I guess, cover maybe a little bit of coordination with the fire code when we get to chapter 3 here in a second. Or do you guys want to coordinate, do the work on it initially, and then come back and coordinate after?
well, I mean, the only thing I would say, when I went through, if you're looking at the definitions, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at it, they have parentheses on it. So they have certain committees that change it. And I didn't go through all the definitions on here. So if there's like a bracket F by it, that's the fire code committee. You know, they have bracket A is administration. I mean, there's certain things that has different groups that deals with this, right? So, B and E is building and existing. I think I can't. I always pull a blank on this stuff, but they just tell you what committee hears it. That's all it is. So to me, if it's an F, that's the F. The fire people should be looking at that. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying in the building code definitions? If it's a B, that's us in the building code. If it's an E, it's the existing building code, if I remember correctly. I forget what the energy is. It's been a while since I've looked at them.
Okay.
I'm going off memory. Yeah, here it is. These are the code development members. So like, does anyone remember top of their heads? I mean, I don't remember top of my head. I should. I deal with this all the time. It's basically
Justin,
what
trying
part is
to-
responsible for it, basically, is what it comes down to.
Just trying to understand your question though, Dustin, were you saying that, should we wait to go over chapter 3 in order to coordinate with the fire code on their
No, my
Okay.
question was, I can pull up the work that we did in the fire code and look at it side by side as we go over chapter 3. Or we can do our work on chapter 3. I can disseminate the work on that section within the fire code, and then we can come back and work and coordinate at our coordination meeting. Or I'm just asking the group, I guess, what they would prefer to do on that particular topic.
So the way I'm sorry to interrupt, but the way I do, if you look in the building code, right, and you have a bracket F by it, okay, and if that bracket F, the fire code committee or the tag that you have that's working on it thinks there needs to be a change in there, then absolutely, but we need to coordinate that. But if it's just bracket B, like in the code, I don't know if you have the code open here. You actually have. I'm not sure what you have. If you open up the building code, actually, if they have bracket B, that's us, the building. If they have B and F, then you definitely should compare them.
Gotcha.
Tim, isn't that what you would think too?
I mean, yes, we should compare them based on those committees that review them and kind of give maybe some more clout to those committees. But when we start talking about chapter 3 today, which is next here, I would rather go through that, just our committee.
Yeah,
Considering
exactly.
I do think that the building code should take precedent in chapter 3, kind of have that more clout than what those fire code changes are, whatever they are suggesting for changes in chapter 2.
Gotcha.
But
And
then coordinate with them afterwards, obviously.
okay, so moving through the definitions, I don't have them all laid out like I would want them on the table, which is okay. Essentially, I need to just list them out, and then what the master document will have the body of the code text inserted in between each definition line here. So I guess I'm going to propose that we run through chapter 2 and look at what's in the Word document, because I think that this is what we're looking for here to be able to have input. And we'll run it that way. I'm going to maybe not try to keep up with typing all this in as we go, just as a means to keep this meeting moving a little bit faster. So the first one, as far as the state amendment goes, is adult family home with the recommendation to keep the amendment. An approved agency, we don't have any need for an amendment identified. And I'll invite anybody, if you have comments on anything as I'm talking, just go ahead and start talking, and I will stop and let you speak up on those. Next, for a state amendment, we have assisted living facility with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Next, we have a new amendment for automatic flush bolt and the recommendation to adopt the new definition with no amendment. Next, we have a state amendment for the automatic load management system, the ALMS, with a recommendation to keep the amendment. For the next two definitions, automatic sprinkler system and basic wind speed, the recommendation is to adopt the model code definitions. Next, we have bottle filling station with a state amendment with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. We do have some legislative requirements to make some changes about bottle filling stations. And I don't think that it'll affect the definition of a bottle filling station. It'll affect some stuff later on in a different section of the code.
Yeah, the big thing is because we don't adopt the international plumbing code, we adopt the uniform plumbing code here in our state. That's where you get the problems. Anytime you have something in plumbing, you just got to double check it. Just FYI.
Do we want to make sure that the definition here aligns with the definition in UPC?
I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
this
I
is
think
more
it's
for
fine.
use. So meaning you can use this type of bottled water filler.
Okay.
UPC is just going to be how to plumb. So I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I do too. I agree.
Gotcha. For the next three definitions, we have a recommendation to adopt the model code definitions. For the next two state amended definitions, we have childcare and childcare family home with the recommendation to keep the existing amendment. On childcare family home, we will need an update on this one. We have the family home childcare rulemaking that was done in the IRC to increase from 12 to 16 children in a home. So this definition would need an update in there. Pull that there, and comments, update to 16. Okay. Next we have an amendment within the definition of climate zone with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Next we have clusters, or cluster, I should say, with a recommendation to keep the amendment. And then we have compost, keep the existing amendment. And for all these model code changes with a recommendation to adopt the model code definition. For custodial care, we have a recommendation to delete the state amendment. Try not to press too many buttons. Custodial. To repeal it because the model code has the same language.
Yeah, I'm seeing the changes that they added, the blue wording in custodial care, and it does look like it specifically is, you know, like we adopted it early with the last definition. So
Right.
I think I agree.
Then we have data center, deadbolt, decorative glazing, detailed plain concrete structural wall. And we have efficiency, or I guess those are keep the model language modifications. With dwelling unit, comma, efficiency, our state amendment is efficiency dwelling unit, and the model code language is the same. So we'll adopt that. There we go. With electric vehicle EV capable spark parking space, electrical vehicle charger, EV charging station, EV ready parking space, EV supply equipment, recommending to keep all of those definitions. Yep. And then moving on, we have a bunch of model code language changes. Looks like the recommendation for those would be to keep those model language changes. Our next state amended section is high-rise building with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. The next one, hospice care center, keep the existing amendment. We have some more model code language changes. We get to the next state amendment, which is limited verbal.
Hang on, can we go back to the high-rise definition?
Yes.
Okay, so the high-rise definition, a building of an occupied floor or occupied roof. No, the problem is because we define a floor with has to be a wall. So the model code, oh, here it is. For the purposes of an occupied roof, for the occupant load is 50 or more is considered an occupied floor. I don't understand how we could rationalize. Is the model code the number, the green?
No, model code is the blue is the changes to model code.
Okay.
And then
I don't know
how
we can, why we can, what our rationale of an occupant load of 50 or more to consider an occupied floor. I can't believe the fire guys. I mean, they argued this at the code hearings, and they want an occupied roof that has an occupancy, that's an assigned occupancy, that's more than 75 feet above the floor, because that's fire department access, because it says fire department vehicle access. This change that you're saying is in their thing, this basically means you have an occupied floor that's greater than 70 feet, or I should say occupied roof that's greater than 75 feet that has no access from the fire department. Yeah, this was debated very heavily at the national level. I don't know where the problem is. The reason we put our definition in there into the code is because people were saying an occupied roof isn't a floor, so we don't have to even measure to the 75 feet. And I think I think this is wrong. What the exception was in the past, so we came down with 50, but the 50 was a different condition that was for, and that was more for like accessibility or things like that came at the top. I don't know how you rationalize that you can have an occupied roof more than 75 feet of vehicle park and access and not consider that a high-rise building. So I think Seattle lets it happen, but I don't think anywhere else has done that. I don't know how you can rationalize that as a definition in there. What do other people think? Because now you can have people up on the roof, especially for vertical evacuation. This happened because of the World Trade Center. You have vertical evacuation, and you have no way of getting people off that roof.
Hey, Hoyt, so this is existing, obviously, right? And so are you suggesting that we make a recommendation for a proposal? Is that the way we should approach this?
No, we shouldn't make a change to it.
Well,
we should base it with the model code. Let me look at the definition. I'm gonna pull up the make sure I have the definition in front of me.
So I'd just add that I see that this is a reduction to have basically, 50 people in an area that would traditionally not be allowed. But
That's correct.
in that context, when somebody submits a proposal like they had to do for this, and it did get vetted through the SBCC, I don't know, it's a clear reduction that they allow, and I don't know really why we would be saying we need to change that now.
Well,
I
here's
mean-
the thing though, right? So here's the thing that you have on there. You got elevator issues, you got all the other stuff for the high-rise provisions. And you're saying keep the existing amendment. I don't know how that existing amendment got in there. The only reason I could think of is because occupied roofs were totally new. And I don't agree with having an occupied roof, 50 or more.
But Hoyt, just are we debating the merits here, or are we debating the blending of existing Washington amendments
No,
with some change because
Yeah.
otherwise we need to propose that there's a.
Yeah, why does Washington say it's not a high-rise building if you have an occupant load of 50 or more on the
No, I
roof?
understand that you're arguing the merits, but did anything change in the model code that we're
Yeah,
able to?
they defined occupied roofs. So that's what I'm saying. The occupied
Gotcha.
roofs is basically, if you have an occupied roof more than 75 feet, you got to treat it as for low department fire, that's a high-rise now.
Okay, so I wasn't tracking that
yeah.
part again.
Yeah, so what this is basically saying is you can have an occupied roof more than 75 feet. Okay.
Regardless of the occupant load number.
Yeah, because an occupied loader, is basically, what is it? An A occupancy is 15 or whatever. What this is saying in here, this is a reduction in life safety. And if I'm on the tag and I'm saying, well, why are we doing, the way I understand is where we're state specific, that we have to have a reason for a change in the code. I don't know why our state's different than, another state for this stuff. So I don't understand how that is that way. I just don't get it. So
Can you show
maybe
us the
other people-
occupied one more time? Just
okay. So what it says in the code right now. I'm sorry, you just moved it out of the way.
I'm seeing it now, so thank you.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
I had missed okay, an exterior. No, you had it.
Oh, you want back into occupiable?
Just real quick, so everybody, because I was missing it.
So you got design for human occupancies other than maintenance and repair. So that's a good thing.
This is Bill. Is the
difference or the change, the fact that when you're talking about an occupied roof, it is typically not an enclosed space, or whatever enclosed space is up there is marginally smaller than the
No.
footprint of the roof?
No, what it is a definition of floor. When you're looking at it, you had to have walls around it. That was the argument around the country. And so they had to put in occupied roofs for life safety because it's not a floor. An occupied roof is not a floor, which seems idiotic to me. I mean, you're standing on it, but it's considered not a floor by code definition, if you read the definition of the floor. So this is why occupied roof was put into the code. So what I'm saying is you know, I don't know how, the way we do it in Tacoma, we've always, if you have an occupied, and our fire guy agrees with it too, if you have an occupied roof that's greater than 75 feet for fire department access, I don't know who you had on the fire tag, but all our fire guys are saying, no, you got to meet the high rise provisions unless you have less than 75 feet access. So
Hey, Hoyt,
treat-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, we treat the occupied roof like it's a floor, even though it's not by definition.
So I think I'm following now, and I understand your point. I guess I'm just procedurally wondering here, is this now something we flag that should have a proposal, and we bring this into the rulemaking process to address this rather than debating it?
Well, that's my question is,
Yeah.
why do we have the authority to make something less restrictive of the code without bringing it up with some kind of debate? I mean, this is a life safety issue. So
No, I understand. I think that's why if we make the recommendation as a tag that this needs to be a proposal, and we need to clarify this in the rulemaking process, is that an action we can take today rather than actually trying to establish the answer?
yeah, and if I'm the only one that says that, I mean, then I guess I'm the minority here in this group, but
Hoyt, I agree with you. I think the only difference between the 2021 and 2024 is 2021, the base IBC does not include the occupied roof, right? And so by adding that state amendment there where it says occupied roof of 50 or more, that's different than what we're trying to propose in here, which is the occupied roof. Now, Dustin, if you can go back again to the definition of high-rise building, that occupied roof that was crossed out there, that was actually supposed to be blue. That's a new amendment in the 2024 base IBC, and it's actually wrong. It should be occupiable roof, right? Because there's no occupied roof anymore. Anyways, that's beside the point here. But yeah, that the word occupied roof there on the first sentence, that's new in 2024 IPC, right? So now we have a different level, and I can see how it your point of view here in the 2021 IBC or 2021 WSBC, we're not making it less restrictive because occupied roof was not in the base IBC. But now in the 2024, that occupied roof was in the base IPC, is already in the base IPC. Now, by recommending to keep the existing amendment, we're making it less restrictive.
that's
now.
correct. And I thought you couldn't do that based on my experience. So what I'm saying is that definition of high rise should not be crossed out, and it should be buildings of occupied floors or occupied roofs. That was extensively discussed at the code hearings, and I don't understand how we get that. The thing about the 50 was a lot like door swings and things like that. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't know how we can justify taking that out, but and you're taking it out down below. So
So Hoyt, again, I think you're right. I'm just arguing that we need to flag this and bring it into the rulemaking process and address this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think-
I would say we keep the existing amendment, but review further and entertain a proposal if it comes our way.
Recommend a proposal. I mean, I think
Proposal.
I think to strengthen that,
Yeah,
my
I
argument
wouldn't
is
say-
we say something needs to be addressed here, but
Yeah.
we shouldn't address it in the in this process, we should address it in a formal proposal, because instead of striking out things and changing an amendment.
Yeah, yeah, we shouldn't keep the existing amendment. We should exactly what you're writing. We should have a proposal to revise that. Unless the fire guys say they're fine with it, then I guess, they're the ones that have to fight it.
All I'm arguing is it needs to go through the process where we have testimony and so forth, is to make that change rather than the TAG meeting.
So
So are you
just to be
saying
clear,
keep-
Dustin, not keep existing amendment as modified. It'd be more like recommend modifying existing amendment.
Through proposal, yep.
Okay.
Modify the existing to match the model code, basically. That's what it would be.
I mean, unless anyone, I again, I understand the merit of it. The TAG can decide whether or not we feel we have that authority to.
Might as well
yeah.
repeal the existing state amendment. That would be our
That's what
recommendation.
yeah, that would be what I would recommend. Repeal this state amendment. So
Okay. And then
Okay.
also recommend a proposal.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, our
So-
next. Go
So
ahead.
if we make that a modification, don't we have to indicate if it is going to increase costs or anything like that?
Well, a proposal should come with that type of information in it, yes.
Okay, all right. I was just curious.
Yeah, since so
but
yeah,
could you have the fire, just verify it with the fire guys, because this was really driven by fire when this was put in, right, into the I codes on the national level. Maybe they have a reason why they think it's okay. That's just my recommendation. Maybe they know something I don't know.
Okay, well, I think either way, I think this is not aggressive, but it's fine. It's a recommendation, and then we can catch it in the rest of the process. So
Okay.
as long as everyone's okay with that.
Yep.
I was gonna see if I can pop up the chapter 2 review from the fire code here.
And that's fine, I don't want to get too bogged down there too.
Yeah.
We
That's
want
the
to keep,
review.
we want to
don't-
keep
you don't need
moving,
to
but
harsh it out.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to harsh it out.
Okay.
but I'm glad we're having this discussion.
I'm not seeing a state amendment in the 2021
Yeah, it looks like there is
state fire code.
So I guess further evidence that we should definitely check it out. So I guess moving forward, hospice care center with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Next one, limited verbal or physical assistance. Recommend repeal the existing amendment because it is identical. Next, move into loft with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. And then to nightclub with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. And then with portable school classroom, keep the existing amendment. We get to recycled materials and residential sleeping suites, both with a recommendation to keep the amendment. Then we get to small business with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment.
Yeah,
And
that's
same for the staged evacuation. So, that takes care of the existing amendments. As far as significant changes, to chapter 2, did you identify any in there, to include in the other page here?
no. There
Well,
wasn't.
I would maybe throw in there, since we had such a discussion about it, occupiable roof. Now that is defined.
But I don't think we need a state amendment on that, do we?
No, I'm saying a significant change because that's going to be kind of predicating why we're saying
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, got it.
there's a change needed over there.
Gotcha.
Comments on this one, do we think we should have in here? No state amendment needed, it's just, uh, a significant change. Is there any other comment I should include in this line? Or additional comments?
Dustin, you should probably put in a note that coordinate with fire with IFC tag.
Okay.
Right?
Alrighty.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that IFC didn't have more that they didn't catch that. The fire guys.
And then the creation of all the other new definitions in here, we are going to classify as non-significant changes in here.
Yeah, they're not. There's no I don't think there's any. They just help define things that we've been using. But I do have one question, since there is something that is new in here, and I thought that other people are on the phone. Can you go down just a little bit more where you have this was something. Can you keep going down? Where was it?
This is
Oh no,
in-
I guess there was nothing. Yeah, never mind. I thought there was something, but no, it's all. It's that small business thing. I think just keep that. Yeah, you got that. Yep. So.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of chapter 2 with the only significant change in the definitions being occupiable roof. And then most of the other existing amended definitions we're keeping. Need to modify family home childcare and repeal several other ones in here.
Yeah.
We'll be ready to entertain a motion on chapter 2.
Dustin, Josh has had his hand up for a comment.
Oh, sorry, Josh, I didn't see it.
No worries. Go ahead. Please go ahead and finish this vote because it's a little unrelated. I just had a question to make sure we're keeping things moving along, but I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay. Okay, Dustin's asked for the motion. Can we hear a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the stuff we just covered.
Okay.
Second.
Wait, and then I missed who the
Seconds on that
second.
one?
Second was Josh.
Josh, thank you. Okay, so Hoyt and Josh. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the recommendation is approved. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you. All right, let me close out this one.
And while we switch over, I just have a brief question. I want to make sure I'm not holding anyone up on this chapter 35 I'm reviewing. After hearing some of the other items that are considered not necessarily significant changes, I'm concerned I'm doing a bit too much. I'm going to be trending towards about 400 significant changes in 35 because every document re-upped. So right now I'm every line writing old code, new code for every ASTM, every standard. Is that what you guys are looking for? I'm starting to feel like I'm holding back stuff that's not really providing a lot of information. I could show you guys or send you where I'm at if this is if there's another time to discuss this outside of this venue, but I'm getting concerned. I'm holding this chapter, putting more information in than is necessary.
Go ahead, Hoyt.
Oh, I was gonna say, I had the same problem that you had when I was going through this. I was getting confused on it, on what to do and what not. Really, the way I look at it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they've changed standards and reference standards and what you're talking about, where your references. I don't think we need to do anything to what the standards that they specify to be used, like unless we're going to adopt something new, like the one we do for the tsunami is the one we use our state tsunami stuff. That's the only thing for the structural things for a thing. But besides that, I don't see why we should be changing anything else, but.
Well, it's not, we're identifying which changes were significant, right? And that's where I'm trying to get definition. I would maybe argue it makes sense to where we have new adopted codes, that's a significant change. And I'm
Right,
happy to continue doing this, but I'm approaching like, 5 hours deep into just writing these significant changes. I'm just kind of copying numbers and letters from one book to a piece of paper.
Yeah, the big thing is, if this is the way I looked at it, is if you feel how it matches our existing amendments, and then unless you think we need to propose a new amendments to the new code, that should be brought to our attention. If
I believe that was part one of what
our,
we're doing.
yeah, part one. If, like, the other thing we're doing here is like we're saying, well, we need to modify our state to match XYZ. Yeah, I know exactly what you're doing. I was having a hard time with that too. I was like, got everything.
But my understanding was we aren't only doing things relating to amendments, it's any significant change in the code. Is that not correct? Other folks on the call?
I wasn't, unless I thought we needed a state change on that. Unless I could think of a reason why we needed it, but it seems like others are doing that. There is a change on it. And
Well, this is Roger. I mean, Josh, what I did was if the determining factor for me, whether it was significant or not, is whether I thought that there was going to be a cost impact.
Sure, and it's pretty difficult to say, is there a cost impact to updating every single ASTM standard?
And
exactly.
ASTM standards, in general, I have not updated, although obviously ASTM going from 16 to ASTM or ASCE 7, but the ASTM standards, no, I've not figured that there were significant changes in those.
All
But
right.
there is on the structural stuff. There is some significant, and there's also on the accessibility stuff. There's significant changes in that.
But your ASCE 7 or ASTM?
No, ASE 7, not ASTM. ASTM, I just kind of kept with what it was because that's a testing laboratory that does a certain requirements. And then, so.
All right. Well, then here's what's I'm gonna probably be sending in a much simpler version of what I'm doing with chapter 35 tomorrow, and Dustin and company can let me know if I've not met the mark here. But yeah, it sounds like I'm going a bit overboard. So thank you guys for your time, and I'll stop taking up meeting time.
No worries. Josh, maybe we can do a little phone call after the meeting if you're available.
That would be fantastic, because I certainly don't want to be coming short, but like I said, I don't think you guys necessarily want to go through 400 line items of, D5055-2016 went to D5055-19 edition 1.
No. So yeah, I'll give you a shout when we wrap up the meeting, and we can just touch base and talk about it real quick. And then I think though that what you're talking about, getting a little bit more concise report, is probably in order on that one.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
And Dustin, I am back if you wanted to go to 16, but I'll leave it up to you as far as how we want to go through the chapters.
Let's wrap up with chapter 3. I don't think we have a ton in here. But since we're kind of got it all open already, I figure we'll just keep on with that one. And then the next one would be 11 in numerical order, but we can bop for over 11 and go to 16 and cover those. Okay, so moving forward in chapter 3, we have an editorial change in 302.1. Our first amendment is in 303.4 for Assembly Group A3, where we make a change to art galleries more than 3,000 square feet with a recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Moving on. Our next amendment is in 305.2.4 for family home childcare, but I'll scroll through and see if we see anything significant we want to address in here.
Probably just that 16 number again, I'm guessing.
Yes, for sure. Group B, I wouldn't say this is a significant change. It's across all the codes, the inclusion of lithium. I guess it is significant, but do we want to flag this as a significant change?
No, it just wasn't
No.
located anywhere before, so.
Yeah, people were assigning it different occupancies. It just clarified where it was.
All right. 5. This is 5.2.4. With a recommendation to keep this existing amendment.
You better flag it. Was there not family home childcare? Okay, I was just wondering if that had gone from 12 to 16.
So
It has.
it is in here. So we have 12 or fewer. So this one should be updated to read 16 or fewer children. So
That rulemaking is in process right now, I think, right? So
yeah,
I would just coordinate that to make sure it is the most current.
Has it actually been signed? I know it's in the process, but has the governor already signed it?
so the governor didn't need to sign that one.
Okay.
But the tag, so what's going on with that one is the change was made in the residential code and with off-cycle rulemaking. And then as that gets finalized, with expedited rulemaking, we're working on the changes within the IBC and IFC on this one. So the changes made, it's just still trickling out into our WAC, which will be going away. So it's moving at the moment.
So Dustin, just to clarify too, especially when we're talking about occupancy classification in this chapter, we're gonna have to kind of coordinate just exactly, what they do in the IRC, because it's if 12 or under if it's unsprinkled, and then if it's sprinkled, they can go up to 16 with the residential sprinkler system. So yeah.
So do you think this one should be modified to include some of that language there?
I think it's gonna have to be, otherwise you would end up classifying as the wrong occupancy group.
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah, I agree with that too. It has to be sprinkled, like, if you get the greater number.
Whereas I'm not sure it makes any difference with the definition.
Gotcha. All right, moving on down the line. Our next amendment is in 306.2 for factory group F. The recommendation is to adopt the model code change for 20% alcohol and energy storage. Our amendment also includes marijuana processing. So adopt the changes within this section, but keep the amendment adding marijuana processing. So keep the existing amendment for section 306.2. So 51-50-0306 says Okay. Moving on, our next amendment is in section 308 for institutional group I. Several sections in there that have some modifications.
You're an H, you mean?
Right, well,
different.
I'm just scrolling through the document, so
Oh,
we
got
got
it. Okay.
comments on the reviewer on these H occupancies. Assuming there's a comment at the bottom of these, which there's not. New table and new language in this section are intended to be a reorganization and edit that should not affect the cost of construction, and the recommendation is to adopt the model code change. Should I be including these in the significant changes report? Or are we considering these?
What I thought when I was at the hearings is really they put a lot of this stuff in the table, and it really wasn't so much a significant change. It was more just made it easier for people to read it. Now I could be wrong on that, but that's what I remember at the
Okay.
hearings when they were talking about it. It was hard to get it. People were having a hard time understanding it, so I didn't think it was really as significant. But I'm going off the hearings that I was at.
It seems to be what the reviewer stated too.
Yeah. All right, here we are. First one, 308.2 institutional group I1 with, it looks like the recommendation to keep these amendments in section 308. We got.
I have a question on this while you're doing this, since we're kind of in the same place. What's the difference between a congregate care facility, right? And what was the other thing right here to keep hospice or something like that? Look at the I1 or the on these I1 condition too, these assisting living facilities. It's always.
I can speak on that. The assisted living is, it's a licensed facility, and so is a residential treatment. The others are, just what's in the model code. But the licensed facilities are what are licensed in the state.
So like the one up above where it says residential board and care facilities, isn't that the residential treatment facilities is licensed? Is it the same thing is what I'm trying to get to? Should that resident board and care facilities really be kind of striked out or really say resident board and care facilities as licensed by Washington State under Chapter 2, similar to that we did with the assisted living facilities? Or are they different? That's my question.
Like a board and care, what we used to call assisted living facilities, boarding homes, a long time ago, but they changed to assisted living. Now board and care, I don't know for sure where that comes from, but it's just been in the code for a long time. We just are for this, it's just typically what type of facilities are in this occupancy for the licensed type of facilities.
Got it. Okay. I just have never seen a residential board of care facilities. I've always been in our state, those two WAC sections. I was just curious if someone knew what that was. So.
And, do we have any additional comments on items in section 308? The reviewer had to keep all of those amendments in section 308.
No, we should keep those.
Okay. I have where was it? The family home child care section to be modified instead of just keeping the amendment to update 12 to 16 and coordinate with any IRC requirements.
Well, don't they say 16 in the code? In the R's, if you go to
The IRC it does, but in this particular state amendment, it does not yet. So as far as what we have on the books, for 308.5.5, right here, it says for 12 or fewer. That's about the only thing I see.
Oh, I see. Because if you go to 310, right? 310.4. That's where it says 16 or fewer. See right there. I guess that's non-transient congregate living facilities.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to 309 mercantile. We have 309.1 adds art galleries in here. Let's see, 51-50-9 says same in here. And with the recommendation to keep the existing amendment. Moving on, our next state amendment is in section 310. For residential group R, we have 3 sections in there that have a amendment. So we got 310.3. Looks like maybe the reviewer missed this one. So we have apartment houses, congregate living facilities, non-transient, sororities, monasteries. So with this one, looks like it doesn't, I'm not sure what the amendment is in here, residential. Okay, so
That's what the code says right now.
yeah. So this is all exactly, we got some model code changes here that I would recommend in adopting. And then as far as the body of 310.3, our state amendment says residential occupancies containing sleeping units or more than 2 dwelling units where the occupants are primarily permanent in nature, including. It looks like our amendment just changes residential group R2 to just be residential occupancies. Do we want to recommend keeping that amendment and adopting model code changes, or repealing the existing state amendment for this section?
But it's just really hard to say, Dustin, without seeing that existing
Okay.
state amendment. Could you pull that up?
Yeah, give me one moment. Okay, so here's the existing amendment. Looks like if I'm pushing that into the body of the Word document, it's just the removal of group R2 in here. That is the amendment.
I mean,
Let's see. So
yeah, to
Sharon,
let you, it's weird. It's the new format kind of the way they're doing, because you already say group R2 and then you say residential group R2. It's weird. They're trying to make it consistent, because you look at R1, if you're going to cross out group R2, you need to cross out
redoing
group
that everywhere.
R1, you got to do it everywhere. So I would say stay with the model code and not cross out group R2. It doesn't make a difference technically, because you're already in residential group R2. So I mean, I wouldn't make that change. I would keep it exactly as the model code states.
Okay.
Because
I agree.
yeah.
I just couldn't figure out what you were saying because, again, it's not even picked up in the Washington custom codes that got deleted. I
Yeah, I
think
think
that
that's
could have
what-
been just an errata situation.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It was a mess up, and then in the second printings or whatever, third, fourth printings, whatever, they'll come out with it. Correct. But
All right, model language, has no regulatory difference than state amendment. Okay. Then we have 31043, 3 and 314. We've got adult family homes. Okay. We'll move on to that one. 310.4.3 is an existing state amendment that adds this section. Same for 310.4.4 with the recommendation to adopt the existing amendments. And 310.4.3. Okay. Looks good on that one. Do we have any additional commentary on these sections? Okay. Moving on. Our next amendment is in chapter 4. So we'll continue scrolling through here. Did we want to identify any other changes in this chapter as significant? Because right now we've got
I mean, the lithium battery ones, just FYI, that's that when I say significant, I've been, that is that. I think the fire code wasn't there something with the lithium batteries on Fs or something?
yeah, there's a whole new section in the fire code for lithium ion and lithium metal batteries. And
Was it
the-
classified in S1? Is that, just want to be sure that was correct?
I'm not sure if it is classified as S1 in the fire code. I'd have to open it up and start checking on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that, go
I
ahead.
remember on the fire code that they didn't feel like it was a significant change, that it was just clarification.
Okay.
Editorial.
I guess based on our review, the only thing that stands out is something that's on the screen now, which is they switched all the beverage alcohol content, and this would be a cost reduction. It's kind of like most of the time we're saying it's a cost increase, but every once in a while the code goes less restrictive on its own.
That's because all those microbreweries for beer is getting
the-
higher alcohol content.
Yeah, it's the double IPA amendments.
Exactly.
All right. Well, if there's nothing we want to add to the significant amendment or significant changes report, then we would be ready to entertain a motion on chapter 3.
All motion.
Here's
Second.
Paul. And then Hoyt, thank you. Any other discussion? Chapter 3, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, approval of recommendation, thank you.
Awesome. So we are going to save that.
Just before we start the next section, so we're at 3:36 to did anyone have further discussion on it on the previous item when we were doing introductions? Are we good? We'll just work up to 4 today.
This is Bill. I have to leave in 10 minutes, or
Okay.
I'm gonna get towed.
Okay.
In relationship to the quorum conversation, I think I have got about 13 minutes and then I'll be out of here.
Okay.
This is
I
Tim.
think as far as that goes, our quorum will be okay. If folks need to take off on those.
All right, let's push ahead. Thanks.
All right, we are opening chapter 16. And we left off last time at table 1607.1.
Oh, we're on 1604, but okay, we made it farther than we thought.
We're gonna close that one. There we go. So let's see. 16:4. So Roger, do I potentially have the wrong one open here?
I don't think
Okay.
so. I did not put, so I did not specifically for every blue put a comment. I think
Okay.
I only flagged it. Yeah, I only flagged it and made a comment if it was related to an existing amendment or a significant change. I assumed that the editorial things in the code, in the model code were okay.
Okay. And I
So-
guess, yes, we did end it. You're correct. We ended at 1604.5.2. And the next section in here is 1607.1 for stuff that's in this report.
Okay, so I'm sorry, so the live load and the helipads, I thought we touched on that, but
We
Yeah,
may have, I just
I
had a
think we-
note in in the meeting where we touched on this, that this is where we left off at is
Okay.
in this
yeah,
table.
we went through the table. There was not a whole lot, and I'm not sure. Helipads, overall, the loading remains essentially the same on the helipads. 1607.3, is that? Okay. Yeah, I can go down through if you. I believe we made it all the way through the table. There were not significant changes on the loading. There's some fire trucks information in there, but again, I think that that's not significant necessarily. And so we got down to 1607.3.1, which is or the uniform live load. Again, I thought that that was just a clarification on when you have partial, loads that are varying uniform live loads on a floor. So I didn't think that was significant. Partition loading. If people have comments, but go ahead and ask me the partition loading. No, so clarified that live load reduction is not allowed for partition loading, so you can't reduce that loading unless you have a live load of 80 pounds a square foot. And that is a pretty standard, it's a good change and it's pretty standard, or oftentimes office loading these days is not typically use 50 pounds a square foot. At least we haven't been doing that in Seattle, which is the code minimum. So that's a very clear exception. You can reduce the live load or reduce the partition loading if you're using 80 pounds a square foot live load. So I'm not sure if people have comments on that, but that is, in my mind, a good change and something that we have been doing in Seattle, I think. So
Okay.
782. Yeah, fire truck and emergency vehicles. I think that was a pretty straightforward change.
There's 13.
And a good
Two.
clarification. Where are you at? 8.2. You're
I'm going to 1607.13.2 is the next one.
13. Oh. Alternative uniform live load reduction. So I asked one of our technical experts in the office to go through this and see if there was any changes, and they said basically there was no change. I mean, there's a lot of blue there, but basically the live load reduction is the same as it has been.
Yeah, I looked at the same thing. I came up with the same conclusion. It's basically matches ASE 7.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay.
It brings us to 1608 is the next one.
This was the one I had a question on, the snow load. I think we've sent emails about on this one.
And I think I actually, after the emails that have gone back and forth, I think that we need to change the cost to, I don't know, a maybe on the cost. But amendment needed, I think, is yes.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was going to have some more of this discussion in a email, but for those of you who are involved in that, I did run through a bunch of points between the ASCE maps and SAW maps, and it's appearing that the ASCE maps are nowhere near as sensitive to elevation changes as the SAW maps. You know, so they would show sometimes with 1,000-foot difference of elevation, the same load. So I'll give you guys that data at some point, but I definitely think that we should be pushing towards amending with the SAW maps as we've been using.
That was the same conclusion I came to. And we've been also reaching out to John Sue. I actually talked to him about it too. And he's trying to figure out, reaching out to some of the people down in California, and Jennifer down in Seattle. She's on that committee, and I'm trying to figure out where did this all go? I mean, so I think we definitely need an amendment to put all our state stuff in there. So
for those that aren't aware, the snow load, let me make sure I get this correct. The change came from, again, the adoption of ASCE 7, going from ASCE 716 to ASCE 722, which is now the reference in the new model code. And the way the snow loads were calculated in ASCE 7 did change. It went to basically a different table depending on your importance factor. And in ASCE 716, there was a specific Washington State snow load map that SEAW had created that was referenced. That reference to that Washington State snow load map went away in the new ASCE 7. So there's been some discussion and email traffic going back and forth between folks that there needs to be an amendment to, and it appears to me, though, we need to go back and adopt the state of Washington maps that we had before, although we also need to probably somehow make sure we accommodate the inclusion of the importance factor. So there is definitely an amendment, and there's some work ahead of us to try to get that amendment.
So a couple other points I'd bring up there too is that they converted to LRFD, so we'll need conversion factors to change the snow loads. And further should also be noted, they didn't just take Washington out. They took every single snow caseload study location except Alaska out of the code. And
yes, I noticed that too.
It's kind of surprising. We used to have lots and lots of these case study areas, and I don't know what the other states are doing, but at least for Washington, with our extremely variable terrain, it doesn't seem that the other maps have quite the resolution that the SEAW maps have. And I mean, I'm talking about swings of 400% in one direction and going down to half as much snow load in other directions. It's not even close to consistent to our mapping. And based on what I've assessed, and I'll be sending those out to some of the other structural guys here, it appears that they are not, that they've kind of smeared our elevations across all of our mountain ranges. And as us structural know, our snow loads vary drastically based on those elevations. So
Yeah.
anyways, I was the one banging the ASCE drum, and now I'm digging in and going, ah, shoot, no, this isn't going to work.
Yeah. So there's the structural folks who Hoyt has been in part of this. We've also looped in, as Hoyt said, John Sue. The SCAW does have a snow load committee, although it has been somewhat inactive, it sounds like. So
Yeah, Jennifer's on that one. Jennifer's supposed to be leading that
yeah,
from Seattle.
yeah. So we are gathering those people up to say, hey, we've got some work ahead of us, and yes, there would definitely need to be an amendment. So,
Hey, Roger and all, so that's not going to be a state agency that's developing the maps. It's going to be SAW.
I don't know.
Oh.
Todd, SCAW was the one that had done it in the past.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we've been using their maps.
Joint
for
SCAW
decades.
Wabo.
That's correct.
And so at this point, I'm not exactly sure who will be creating those. All we know is there's work ahead of us, and we need to figure out.
And so the proposal not only has to have those reference on a website to those locked maps. Is that how it was done? Just like our DNR maps on wildfire and on tsunami?
That's a very good question, because the previous status quo is you just had to buy the map or ask the jurisdiction, because we even when ASCE adopted the maps, they weren't made available. And I don't know legality wise what changes if it's a state amendment, if we need to make those available, and what coordination may need to be done with SCAW make that happen. It's kind of a complex one that maybe we don't need to hash out as much here, but I definitely think people who are interested, provided we stay under quorum in our discussions, should definitely be weighing in. I'd say we're very much in an information gathering state, because there's a few complicating factors all at once with this change.
That's correct.
Okay, so the clear takeaway here is there's a recommendation from the tag to a proposal needed, and there is a statewide group pursuing them.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on, 1611. A lot of maps in here.
Yes, I know.
Scroll past it. All right, 1611 for rain loads.
Yeah, this one.
Out of the DP term, the load equation.
Yeah, so that term was added, and you are basically required, the DP is the added rain due to the deflection of the roof members. And also let's see, design, yeah, there are two things. Yeah, the return period. So the risk category is dependent on the risk category, whether your risk category 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I put question mark by both of those as far as the cost goes. I don't, it was my thought, and I guess I would like other opinions on this.
This, just to let you know where this came from, the people I've talked to around the country, a lot of this came from, the heavy rains in the South, and when they have these downpours that come in. And so they, like with the hurricane forces, not hurricane force, but those big storms that come in and just dump a bunch of rain. We don't have this. But in my opinion, a lot of times this doesn't ever control our design unless you're a really flat roof. And so I'm at the point where I rather just stay with the model code, because it's really not going to make a difference in most of our designs, unless someone sees it differently. But
I agree with you, Hoyt.
it's just, I think we should just stay with the way the model code is stating. So that's just mine.
I tend to agree. I just wanted to point out, Dustin, you highlighted 3 cells, and you should be highlighting the 2 1611. So I had the no up above, and then the rain loads with the question mark. Yeah.
I just highlighted them for, since we were talking about the question
yeah.
mark in there.
And that was my assumption too, Hoyt, was I didn't think that it was a significant change, but I wasn't quite comfortable making that determination myself completely. So that's why I put the question mark on the cost. And
Yeah, I did a little running some numbers just because I'm kind of a boring guy. Did a couple checks here in Tacoma and did a couple other checks kind of figuring out, and I seemed okay with it. So that, you know, it didn't control. So just FYI, a couple of buildings I looked at.
okay.
Okay, 613.2.
So yeah, now we're getting into the seismic earthquake, and there are quite a few changes, but and I think this is significant changes. And I think if you go back to the existing amendment, yeah. So those first two columns, we incorporated most of the information on the new changes from ASC 716 to 22. Most of those changes were incorporated into these amendments that you see. However, I did not go through it. It's relatively complicated, and I did not take the time to make sure that everything in the amendment was picked up by the model code. I believe it was, but I did not go through completely. So I believe my recommendation is we need to make sure that go back through a fine tooth comb and make sure that everything has been incorporated. And there may be some things that we need to maintain the amendment, but most of the amendment has been picked up in the model code.
Yeah, that was the one thing. This was driven by California in a lot of ways in this stuff to kind of get the ASC 7 more right in with the IBC. And I think you're right. But I'm the same way. I have not checked every single. I mean, that's a lot of work to go through. Check. It'd be nice if you keep it in there. I would keep a note that says in the next cycle, if we find that's really no difference, then I think in the next ASC 7 we could definitely delete it. But that's just.
I'm sorry, you're suggesting keeping the amendments as they are?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't think it makes it to me. I think ASC 7 is the right way to go, but that's what in some of the meetings I had done with people, the engineers down in California and stuff, because we're in the same seismic stuff that we do. I'm kind of with the ASC 7, but I think those earthquake loads have just kind of been kept in there because they've just kept them in there and nobody's wanted to take them out. But that's my guess.
Yeah, Dustin, you're copying those things down there. I was trying to track along with you. I'm, I think it needs to be flagged as a significant change. The existing amendment, I don't know. I almost would think that we could put it on. I know that there are groups within City of Seattle or I'm not sure who all, maybe an SEAW committee. I know one of my engineers is on that group that just put it on them that if there's an amendment needed to make sure that all of the changes are picked up, flag it for the industry to pick those changes up.
Yeah, Julius at the City of Bellevue. I've been talking to him too.
Yeah.
And so, and that is something we have been talking about for the SEAW group. So.
Okay. I would almost, I guess after talking about it, thinking about it some more, I would almost put, get rid of the state amendments. But
all section 1613?
I think so. Well, I take that back. There's some things that I flagged on there. You added 1613.4.
I'll get down to the section. I think this section is all just state amendment. So it's all additive to the model code. And I was just sticking this stuff in here.
But you're gonna have to change that because there's an atmospheric ice load that is 16. Oh, you're 13.4. There's
Yeah.
a ballast, 13.4 is ballasters, okay, in the code. And so you're gonna have to renumber
Oh.
that. You're gonna have to renumber that one because in the code now, 1613.4 is ballasters, photovoltaic panel systems.
Yeah, see, when I inserted those, then it renumbered the ballasted photovoltaic to,
Oh, got it, yeah.
so,
So if we do it, we should do it the other way around. Don't
Okay.
do it. The ballaster ones do it, the other way around.
Okay.
Because the problem is you got to go back and find all the references to 1613.4 somewhere
Yeah.
else in the code.
Yeah.
That's the reason, not that it's wrong or anything. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just following up on that. And I'm on the ICC Code and Correlation Committee, and let me tell you, it's hard to find when they start referencing it somewhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
luckily the search works pretty good.
Hey, Rogers, so we're coming up on 4 o'clock. Do we want to push through if people are available, or what do we think?
I would like to push through the end of this. I mean,
Yeah.
we are almost done with chapter 16.
Yeah, seems like it. Great. Is everyone okay with that? And we can lose quorum if we need to and just not take action today.
Yeah,
I'm willing to stay
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're almost done. There's not much at all. So
Yeah,
I need to leave. Sorry.
Okay. Well, let's push through it and then we will take attendance when we're done. And if we don't have a quorum, then we can wait and do the official acceptance at the next meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Sounds good to me.
yeah, me too.
So yeah, Dustin, I think that we need I think that the notes there, keep existing amendment, but coordination is required.
Okay.
Has to happen. And I think that getting the SEW committee to kind of confirm everything that it was picked up in adding the soil type CD.
And as far as the coordination, we're coordinating with which document?
ASC 722.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think to my memory, that was always the intent, right? But we just want to check, especially with the proponents, the original, to make sure we're not forgetting.
Yes.
Something.
Yeah. And then there are some things on 1613.4. And if you go back to the document on the right and page up, I did put notes in there. ASC 722 modifies the section to include steel and concrete coupled composite plate walls, reinforced concrete ductile coupled walls. And so I have pulled together, I thought I forwarded that to you, but
you want to open up the chapter 16 stuff that you sent to my way?
Yes. After whoever is writing the updated amendment needs to go through and make sure that we add, there's a few modifications in ASC 7 that were not included in our proposal, in our amendment. So
the documents I have from you for ASCE, they're just the different sections. So starts at 11.2. Do you want to open up that one?
Sure. As an example, I mean, I think that I say the MSE, that's supposed to be SME, subject matter experts. So that's here's an example. The 11.2 in ASC 716, it was blank. In 722, they're talking about the USGS design geodatabase. And then if you go down on the page, here's the current WAC amendment. So again, I believe that section 11, that it's picked up everything, but we need to go through. So I've provided a document that kind of cuts and pastes each piece that needs to be confirmed.
Yeah, just to let you know, I went through that too, and it does look like it does match. The one that's different, just FYI, is the tsunami is not the correct.
Yes.
That one is definitely, we got to
Yeah.
use our state one.
And I have that down there. So all of the seismic stuff, I'm basically saying we need to keep the amendment, but the amendment probably is going to be significantly less because most of the information got picked up in ASC 7.
Yeah, my problem is when we keep the amendment.
Yeah.
God, I wish I could remember what it was. There was one where our amendment was less,
Yeah,
but, and that's what I was worried about. And that, I don't remember when, that was a while ago that I looked at that, but, um, but I do believe keeping the amendments are okay too.
yeah. And then if you page down, the 1615 is the tsunami loads, and I said, yes, you've got to. Model code has not changed, the lack, yeah, so we need to maintain the amendment. And I inserted all of that, copy and pasted all of the amendment in there.
Okay.
So that was everything.
Yep, that's the end of chapter 16.
Summarizing, the big things are the snow loads, then there's work to be done. The earthquake loads, we just need to make sure that all of the ASC 722 stuff is picked up. We do need to insert what we had done before on the tsunami loads.
Okay.
Right,
And I
that's a good
believe
one.
we're ready to entertain the motion on chapter 16.
Motion to approve.
Second,
I missed the first one, so
It was me,
Josh.
Josh, a
All right,
motion
Josh.
to approve and incorporate in the master document.
yeah, thank you, Josh Then Hoyt.
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 16 approved. That was a fun one. Thanks, Roger and all.
Yes.
Boy, I have to say this is hard doing not only all of the editing, but also doing the IBC in one run is a new thing, right? So, okay, anything else that would for this meeting? Any other business?
Do we want to talk about the future meeting schedules with so right now Fire Tag has completed that preliminary review of their chapters. Staff is working towards incorporating that all into the master document for review before moving to the committees. And then Roger brought up having some correlation meetings between the IFC and IBC tag. And so I just wanted to maybe throw out some suggestions on meeting dates to try to get all this stuff done. So I guess let's see, today is the 13th. We've got about half of June left in here. We have some meetings already scheduled for Thursdays moving out. We don't have anything scheduled after the 21st for the council meeting because we were anticipating being done by then. So I would propose that we keep on going on the Thursdays, but I want to toss out maybe including Tuesdays if people are available at maybe the same time frame.
Yeah, I'm having trouble on Thursday afternoons, so I'm gonna be on a plane next Thursday, but I'm good Tuesday, Wednesday if we want to add a meeting.
Okay.
I'm also good. Tuesday, what day would that be? The 18th?
18th for next week, yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay in the late afternoon like we did here. And I'm also okay. The 19th is just, it's a holiday, but I'm fine. I could be available for the
Oh, that's
it's the
right, yeah.
Juneteenth, but
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right. We shouldn't have one on that
Yeah.
day. I'm available to do it, but just because it's a holiday, I don't think we probably have some folks missing.
oh, okay. I mean, I'll
Okay.
make myself available if you need me. So
Okay. So we can do the 18th next week. I'm fine with that one. You said the 20th next week, you're gonna be traveling, Todd. Do we have any other folks having issues with next Thursday?
I am, my next 2 weeks we've got leadership.
Todd, you got another outing scheduled, I believe, right?
What's that?
You have
You're not-
another outing scheduled?
No, we have leadership meetings all next week and the following week also, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are
Okay,
challenging for me.
no worries.
But I don't have, 16 was the big one I went through. I mean, 17, there's not a lot. You could go through that with just the comments, I think.
Yeah, 17 is
Yeah.
very, very brief.
So looking at what we've got left here, we went over 16. So 17, 19, 20, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 35. I wanted to kind of get the opinion of the group. Do we think that we can move through those? Maybe like, have we hit the hard chapters already in this code, or are we going to have significant time expenditure on the remaining chapters? I guess I can share the list so everybody can kind of look at it.
That'd be great.
I think concrete might be a little bit of time, but the rest of them are pretty quick. So,
Okay. And then we have the entire IEBC to go over as well. So do we have an opinion on time kind of requirements for that publication?
I've
guess
gone
what I'm-
through the IEBC a lot just because I'm on kind of the national codes and going through that.
Mhm.
I have a hard time with some of our state changes. I don't really get it, but I'm in the point of following the model code, but you know.
I reviewed 19 and I was just looking back through. I don't see a whole lot, and maybe I missed. Wait, there was not hardly anything that caught my eye. So I didn't think
You
that
mean
would
the concrete? You mean the 19, the concrete?
chapter 19.
Yeah, I just no, this is something different. SCAW's looking through. We're in a meeting where we're looking at maybe they'll be bringing a state proposal having to do with the ductile. It'd be more of changing in the ACI code. So, but you
Okay.
guys don't have to worry about that. There isn't any changes now. It will be a proposal that may be coming in through an SCAW group on
Okay.
changes to the concrete structure. So all I'm saying is, it's the structural stuff should be go really fast. I mean,
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying is that there is going to be we're putting in a proposal to make sure we get ductile procedures, basically trying to adopt some of the ACI next code cycle earlier than later. So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Okay.
And it may just get turned down, which I hope not, but
You just put that on the wrong row there, Dustin. We just did 16. And you
Oh,
put,
you're right. Sorry.
yeah, I personally think 17 is
yeah.
okay. I think that's a really quick one. So
Okay, so if we had 4 more meetings here in the rest of this month on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4, are we feeling pretty confident we could get to the end of this preliminary review and then staff can get to work on making that master document, and then we can reconvene I guess the next week of the first week of July for a meeting to kind of go over that, or we can coordinate the coordination meetings as well in that week as well.
Seems reasonable, but I would throw out there, I may not be able to make all of the Tuesday meetings.
Okay. And then I guess if we didn't have quorum, I don't think we would elect to just not do anything that meeting. We just wouldn't take any formal action
Yeah, just work.
on those, and we can get the reviews kind of maybe done and give a summary when we do have quorum present.
Yeah, it should be a nice balance between Tuesday and Thursday having availability.
Okay, then what I'll do is I'll send out invites for Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4, as long as that's attractive to this group. And if maybe after next week, if we're not quite getting to the end, we can maybe make a small adjustment if needed.
Okay.
Do
Okay.
we,
ahead.
Hoyt, I just in respect of losing the puppy, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you need any assistance with any of these chapters that have your name on them left over?
let's see, I got 32 and 33. I'm working on those right, or 33 is what I'm working on. what's the other one? Then the other one's the IEBC 1 and 2.
Yep.
And then 14
I
and
think
15.
I already have 1 and 2 from you on the IEBC unless
That's
you
what I
got,
thought. No, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. So I think it's 14 and 15 I'm working on. So
yeah, I've got 13 actually and 16 left in the IEBC on that one.
oh, 13 and 16. I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, I'll get to those. I mean, it was,
Okay. And then Tim and Joshua, do you guys need any assistance with those remaining chapters out there as well?
It seems like based on conversation earlier, I should be able to wrap up 35 pretty quickly now.
Oh yeah, you did mention that. And I'm gonna give you a shout once we get off the call here and we can talk about 35 as well.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Well, I think with that one, that's all I had.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Good work. We'll see you on Tuesday. We're
Really
adjourned.
appreciate the time, guys. Thank you.
I,